What is going on, everyone? Tenha here, and today in this video we are going to compare 3 on-field hydro characters that are often designed to do damage, okay? So that it will be clear for you guys to decide whether if you should be skipping Neuvillette or not. Let's start off with Childe. Childe is designed to be an on-field enabler and a nuker, and Childe is a one-trick character, which is Childe's International. This is what you want to use him for, and that is it. This is the best team for him and probably won't be taught by other hydro character since his entire kit is tailored for this specific setup. This team is a bit tricky to play because you have to have a perfect rotation and manage Childe's skill cooldown. There is basically no downtime to his hydro applications. You will find that his skill is actually very flexible and you can cycle through this cooldown based on the enemies you face. Polar Star is his best in slot, but you need to stack his normal attack and charge attack. Aqua Simulacra is his second best in slot because Childe can easily trigger the weapon's passive since he's a melee character. The next best in slot is Thundering Pulse, but there's a decent gap in damage output compared to Polar Star and Aqua Simulacra. However, the good thing about Thundering Pulse, his 5 normal attack and charge attack becomes a lot better to play since Thundering Pulse's passive buffs your normal attack damage. If you don't have any of the 5-star weapons that I have mentioned above, then you can use Skyward Harp. It is a standard banner weapon, so it might be easier to obtain that weapon for lower AR players. 5-star weapons are valuable for Childe because it will help boost his burst damage. Childe has a big multiplier on his burst, so giving him 5-star weapon is going to help him nuke down the enemies. In addition, Childe's ideal playstyle is you want to use 2 normal attack, charge attack, dash, but with certain weapons like Rust and Thundering Pulse, playing him with 5 normal attack, charge attack, or extra normal attacks becomes more attractive to play because of the weapon's passive. Childe has 2 forms of bursts, one in bow form and one in melee form. In most scenarios, it is better for you to use his bow burst. That way, you can get your energy back when doing his rotations, and this also allows you to burst in every rotations very comfortably. Some people play Childe for Taser team. However, there are better units for Taser teams and you lost a lot of value for not running him in Childe International, so you really only want to use him in International to fully optimize his kit. So for artifacts, you want to use 4-piece Heart of Death or Nim Stream are his best in slots. However, it is more advisable for you to go for 2-piece HOD and 2-piece Nim Stream or another 2-piece Gladiator or Shimenawa because it is easier to farm and your Childe will probably have better substats, which makes it really similar, if not better, to the full stat effects. Like I said before, Childe doesn't need any constellations to be fully functional, which is why I think he's like something that you should consider when he comes back. Alright, now let's talk about Ayato. Ayato is more like jack of all trades but master of none. There are a lot of team comps for him such as Ayato Soup, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon, Ayato Taser, and Ayato National. However, these teams already have better options. For example, in Ayato National, Childe is a better fit, right? Why would you use Ayato in a team where somebody else is shining better, you know? The reason why that is because Ayato is more focused on the single target fight, while Childe has Riptide, so he can cruise through any type of situations, including both single and multi-target fights. When you put Ayato in National, the way you'll be playing this team is that you're gonna be making him the core in the team. While in Childe International, Xiangling is the core, which is the optimal option because in National team, Xiangling does more damage than both Ayato and Childe. Ayato also makes Xiangling lose her vapes, which will result in DPS loss. Ayato isn't worth pulling for simply because we have Xingqiu, who is a 4-star character, and for the national team, you can also put Sucrose in there and that team will be much cheaper to build. The next team we're gonna talk about is going to be Ayato Soup. Ayato Soup team is a single target team as the overvape knocks the enemies back. However, there are certain cases with enemies that can't be knocked back, which gives that team some AoE. Ayato Soup is arguably his best team because when we run that team, Ayato won't be stealing important reactions because in Soup team, it is basically just putting a bunch of elements and triggering many elemental reactions on field. You're going to be using Jean's Burst and Bennett's Burst, and Jean's Burst is going to swirl off Pyro. And when that happens, we put Hydro on top of that so that when Pyro is being swirled, that damage is going to be vaporized. Which is why we want to build Jean with EM. And for the right rotations, we're gonna have to give her high EM and also high ER. With my skill in Genshin Impact, 190 energy recharge was not good enough. Around 205 to 210 would be very good. Ayato Burgeon is a really good AoE team because Ayato, Nahida, and Thoma can provide AoE elemental reactions. But I personally think it's more comfy to play the National and Soup team because we don't have to stay on top of Bennett's burst. However, it is not that great for single target fights. Ayato Hyper Bloom is also very comfy to play, and he's better than Childe in this specific scenario because he can get more on-field uptime than Childe. His ultimate also provides AoE Hydro application, which will help creating more consistent blooms. However, running Nahida with double Hydro and using her as a driver is simply a better option than using Ayato as a driver. The only good thing about Ayato in this team is his AoE Hydro application, which is often not really necessary. Some people also run him in Freeze and Fridge team. It works, but again, there are other better options, like Ayaka's Premium Freeze team and putting Xingqiu or Yelan in the Freeze team. However, if you need an off-field AoE Hydro applicator, then you can use Ayato for that specific scenario by building him as a support. We want to give him the emblem set and any ER weapon so that he can have consistent ultimate uptime. So, we can talk about the weapons for him. His best in slot, Haran. We can use Jade as well. It gives you HP, crit rates. And Mist Splitter are very similar in terms of DPS output. If you're using this weapon on him, you have to make sure that you get the stacks. 4-star weapon, you can use Black Sword from the Battle Pass. It's the best 4-star for him. And you can also use Amenoma, Lion's Roar, Ishin Blade for their attack percentage. And then, as we all know, his specialized artifact is the Echo set, but you need to have good ping if you want to utilize this. Because the passive won't proc if you have bad ping. Ideally, below 70 ping to utilize the set. So if you have more than 100 ping, then you might reconsider about using this set. If that's the case, HOD is his best in slot because it gives Hydro damage bonus and normal attack damage bonus by 30%, which is very important for Ayato. Gladiator is also viable, but the 18% attack bonus is worse than the 15% Hydro damage bonus. Lastly, you can use the 2-piece, but unlike Childe, 4-piece set bonus is very important for Ayato because his personal DPS mostly comes from his normal attack. Good thing about Ayato is, just like Childe, Ayato also doesn't need any constellations. He is fully functional at C0. If any character is fully functional at C0, you can dare to say it is a very good character. And finally, Neuvillette. Neuvillette is a pure on-field Hydro DPS. He has big multipliers, so he's going to be the core damage dealer in all of his teams. Neuvillette doesn't apply enough Hydro to trigger many elemental reactions like Childe and Ayato, but his personal damage is enough to make up for it. Which is why it is okay to lose one stack of his Draconic Glories, which is his passive, and go for double Hydro to get the benefit of the Hydro Resonance. However, the other Hydro unit must be able to provide other buff to Neuvillette to make the buff worth it. Some of the examples are Yelan and Mona for the damage increase and Xingqiu for the Hydro Shred. Zhongli, Neuvillette, Kazuha, Fischl, I would say that's the best C0 team. We can give Zhongli Archaic Petra set for extra Hydro damage bonus with the Hydro Crystallize, Fischl as all-field sub-DPS to generate particles for the team, and Kazuha to shred both Hydro and Electro. Another good C0 team is Zhongli, Neuvillette, Nahida, and EM Raiden, like we have talked about in the first video that we made. Hyper Bloom team overall is broken, and we also have Neuvillette's personal damage on top of the Hyper Bloom damage. We want to put Raiden instead of Cookie here because Raiden allows us to trigger Hyper Bloom in long range. We also already have Zhongli for sustain, so Cookie's healing is not needed. And you can run Neuvillette without Zhongli and change it with Beidou for better AoE. However, Zhongli provides a lot more buffs for Neuvillette with the Petra set and Res Shred than Beidou. Not to mention that her shield is very thin. Zhongli has the thickest shield in the game with the longest shield uptime, which provides Neuvillette with resistance to interruption. This is really valuable for Neuvillette because he will lose a lot of DPS if he gets interrupted while he's doing his charge attack, as you guys have probably experienced. And with his C1, his team comp changes a lot because he gets massive interruption to resistance while doing his charge attack, and he will also gain one stack of Draconic Glories whenever he takes on the field. This means that he requires less different element teammates, and we can now change the shielders with another Hydro unit for Hydro Resonance to further buff his personal damage. One of his best C1 team is Fischl, Kazuha, and another Hydro unit like Yelan, Childe, Xingqiu. For Childe, his passive gives +1 level for normal attack. For Yelan and Xingqiu, they can be used to gain more energy particles for Neuvillette, and boost for his personal damage, which is from Yelan's passive when she does her ult, and Xingqiu's Hydro Shred at C2. If you need some healing, you can slot in Kokomi or Barbara. In this case, Barbara is better for the Electrocharge team because of her C2, which gives Hydro damage bonus, while Kokomi is better for Hyper Bloom team. Other Neuvillette's team like Neuvillette's National doesn't have great synergy because, like we said, Neuvillette doesn't provide enough Hydro, right? Neuvillette is one that is vaping, not Xiangling, who is the core in national teams. That means her personal damage is being wasted. On top of that, Neuvillette also can benefit from Bennett's buff, which is why it is better to just use Childe for this team. The team with Neuvillette and Mona does exist, but that's used in low-cost speedrun for C1 Neuvillette. That means this team needs higher investments. For F2Ps and low spenders, all of the teams I have mentioned will be far better in longer fights. That's because in Neuvillette Mona team, the uptime for 3 charge attack is as bad as 60% buff to only 66% of your charge attack. It's also worse than using Yelan's auto weave in Neuvillette team with her A4 damage bonus. Childe also has the same problem, but he needs less investment. That's the reason why I don't recommend Mona in this team, as most people don't have high enough investments to make this team work. For his weapon, Neuvillette will get his massive damage increase from his Eternal Flow. So compared to other 5-star weapons, right? This is his signature. If you want to go for this weapon. For all of the other 5-star available weapons, it is below a 4-star Battle Pass weapon called Sacrificial Jade. Besides this Eternal Flow. That's how good that 4-star weapon is. If you don't have that, another option is Lost Prayer because Neuvillette will be on field for quite some time. For F2P weapon, you can go with Prototype Ember because it gives HP percentage. Lastly is the free event weapon we will get at 4.1, but Prototype Ember will still be better for the HP percentage and some energy regen. And then we can talk about his artifacts. His best in slot is the Sussy Hunter because of the charge attack damage bonus, and then it enables crit stacking for Neuvillette. His second best will be the Heart of Death for the Hydro damage bonus and charge attack damage bonus. Neuvi is okay at C0, but he gets a big upgrade at C1 because his C1 opens up a lot of his potential in case of team building and playstyle. That's the reason why C1 is arguably his best constellation. In conclusion, Childe will always be good and relevant because of how strong International is. You can basically clear any contents in the game with this team. Ayato, on the other hand, has fell off on the meta because there will always be a better option for the team comps that are available for him. You should only pull for him if you like him as a character or his playstyle. And Neuvillette. Neuvillette is a top DPS. So if you need a good on-field Hydro DPS, then Neuvillette is going to be a good investment. We did the comparison between Ayato, Neuvillette, and Tertag. It was one of the most famous questions that I've been getting as a content creator. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Adios.